All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the busted up streets of Fullerton, California. And if you want your daily dose of a good laugh, ladies and gentlemen, you have to look no further than these supposed space programs and these cartoon images that they're putting out. And apparently there's another space program over in Israel that's supposedly on its way to the moon. You know, I think Japan's trying to go to the moon. And back in the 60s, we supposedly went to the moon, what, 15 times? Look, ladies and gentlemen, there's an old saying that what comes up must come down. Are you freaking kidding me? Seriously, you actually believe that they have these machines that fly through space trillions of miles away and send back signals and have all these pictures of the Mars rover on, you know, roaming around on Greenland somewhere? Look, the whole globe Earth model is a lie, folks. We're not moving. We're not spinning around any. There's a lot of debate about whether it's flat or concave, but I could tell you one thing: we're definitely not living on a spinning ball. And there's nothing flying to the moon right now, okay? And as far as the moon being the distance away that they claim it is, there is no way that my cheap camera can zoom in on those craters with that distance that it supposedly is. The sun and the moon are the same size, folks. They're the same distance from the Earth, and as the Bible says, one is the greater light and one is the lesser light. Now, I know that some of you may work for NASA, and I pity you. I feel sorry for you because you are working for a Masonic, occultic, black magic, Luciferian, pseudoscience, Hollywood production cartel of criminal thievery from the American taxpayers. But worse than that, it is a war on God, folks, because the globe Earth model is the key fundamental foundation to get all the people to believe that there is a possibility that everything just spun into existence out of an explosion and coalesced and cooled, and centrifugal force in reverse has created these things that people think are planets that are spinning around. Folks, you need to shut your TVs off. All right? Are you freaking kidding me? You actually believe these cartoon pictures they're showing you as real? Seriously? You know, my daughter is smarter than most people with PhDs, and she said, "Dad, how come every time they launch a rocket it goes sideways?" And I said, "Well, honey, it's got to come down over the ocean because it can't get out. Because there's a dome up there, ladies and gentlemen. Every rocket launch eventually ends up going sideways. Because why? Because if you go straight up, you'll hit the roof." I know, and it's hilarious. This black cube worship, this Saturn worship. You know, in Fullerton, folks, we have a city council that is run by, you know, very immoral, dishonest people, okay? And, you know, the mayor's wife, she's some degenerate, perversion-pushing assemblywoman, sex ed Sharon Quirk Silva. And then we've got this other woman that works for Kurt Pringle and Associates. Her name is Jennifer Fitzgerald, and her husband runs the Discovery Science Center. And the Discovery Science Center over in Santa Ana, over at Main Place, it's got this big black cube on it, right? This big Saturn worship cube. And they've got this Saturn rocket out in front. See all this stuff? The black cube, folks, and the Minecraft cube, and you know, you got to look into this black cube and the Saturn worship stuff because it's in your face. And we've got people that are in positions of power that are going along with the nonsense. And this whole space program and this whole nonsense, folks, when they launch stuff really high up in the air and they say they're going to the moon, you know, look, I could go to the Dollar Tree or the 99-cent store and get cheese for $1. They don't need to go to the moon to get cheese, folks. There's nothing up there, okay? They're putting stuff in the air, ladies and gentlemen. They're putting things in the upper atmosphere. I don't know what they are, all right? But every time they supposedly launch into space, they're not going up there for the fireworks show, ladies and gentlemen. All right? Something's going on where they're saying they're going to the moon. They're putting something up in the sky, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we see the planes spraying this stuff every day, right before it rains. You guys know what I'm talking about, these aluminum compounds. And then they hit them with the scalar waves from the HARP and the cell phone towers and all that. But they're doing something up there. I've talked about how I'll have to bring this video back up. Maybe I'll re-upload it and explain what they're doing with the different compounds that they can release in the ozone layer that will actually react with the ozone and the ultraviolet rays from the sun and create these crystalline compounds that change the wavelength of light very subtly, but very damaging to life on Earth. But these space programs, folks, they're not what you think they are, okay? They're not launching satellites up there. There's nothing floating around up there. Yeah, there might be some balloons carrying some loons around. You know, the Google Loon Balloon program. You know, they've got some weather things. They've got these aircraft that fly at like 50, 60,000 feet with cameras on them. That's where they get all these supposed satellite images. I mean, do you ever notice when you zoom out, it just turns into a cartoon? Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Why is everything a cartoon? Why are these spaceships a drawing that my 6th grade daughter could make, huh? Why is that? Why is everything Star Wars? It looks like a Star Wars toy, okay? Why does everything look like Battlestar Galactica models from Toys R Us? I mean, come on! They're spending trillions of dollars on these space programs. I'll tell you what they're doing, folks. It's weaponry. And when they have a license to go high in the sky, and they have a license to go up there and nobody else can, and nobody else can see what they're doing, I can tell you right now, they're releasing stuff. They're priming the atmosphere for something, folks. I don't know what it is, but, you know, they keep telling us about how, you know, Kim Jong-un, you know that guy that his face looks like a bowling ball that got stuck in a vice? The guy that runs North Korea, like, he's got some space program that can detonate some EMP that can take down our power grid. You know what's going to take down our power grid, folks? All the back doors and the Snapdragon chips that's going into the 5G. I wanted to give a shout out to one of my diehard listeners this morning. His name is Bruce from Willows, California. While I'm talking about this, I also want to make a statement that, you know, Ford also stands for not just fix or repair daily. I need to qualify that statement that I made, because back in the 70s, my dad had 2 Fords. He had a 68 Ford Galaxy, and he had a 71 Ford LTD station wagon. And I kid you not, we were working on those cars almost every weekend. It was a shame. But Ford also stands for first on race day. So, Bruce, that one's for you, my friend. And I do appreciate my audience. And if I haven't mentioned my P.O. Box, it's 4121 Fullerton, California, 92834. And on the web at wifidangers.com and the fullertoninformer.com. A wealth of information out there for any of you who has time on your hands that wants to go deep into the rabbit holes. And there are rabbit holes, folks. You see, they've got everybody living in cartoon land. And I was having this discussion with my daughter this morning. And she asked me, she says, "Oh, Dad, why do people believe this stuff?" And I said, "Well, honey, there's a very thin line between fantasy and reality with most people, and they blur those lines constantly. You know, these movies where this guy jumps out of a helicopter onto an exploding building and then grabs onto a molten steel ledge and then scales the thing 5 stories and gets the girl under a collapsing ceiling, then jumps across to the parking structure. That's not reality, ladies and gentlemen. And everybody's watching these cartoons and these video games. And there's a thing called virtual reality now that has swept the masses' minds, and everybody's walking around with these headsets on in their house, you know, ruining their eyes and their brains. But people will fall for anything because they're conditioned to live in a dream world, in a state of la la land existence. They're all in Disneyland delusion, okay? They're all living in Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. Look, folks, everything the government does is designed to do one thing: consolidate, 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 consolidate. And when I say that 4 times, I'm talking about control, I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking about power, and I'm talking about what people think, okay? Because those are the ways they remain in power. You see, you know, years ago, when I was a young man and I didn't have gray hair and a road atlas on my forehead, there was a time in life where I just wanted to go to the beach and hang out with my girlfriend and, hang out at night and hang out with my girlfriend and go down to the beach and then, wake up and do it again the next day, right? That's, when you're young, that's what you want. You want to be in the sun and feeling the sun on your skin and hanging out with a beautiful gal. And that was all you needed, right? And so, years go by and I get married to a lovely lady and have a family, and I'm happy. That's my life. And I get up, I go to work, and I take care of my family, and I raise my children, and I love the Lord, and I raise my family. But some people, it ain't enough. It ain't enough for them to have one woman, they got to have 5. It ain't enough for them to have one house, they got to have 50. It ain't enough for them to have $1,000 in the bank, they got to have 100 million. It ain't enough for them to own corporations. They've actually got to take everything a step further. You can see they start getting hungry for something called power, folks. That's right. And when they cross that line, they become deranged. And these deranged people, they print the money. They don't need our money. They print it. All right. They're ripping off our labor and our resources with this fiat money, but they're into power, folks. And one of the things that people that are into power enjoy is inflicting misery and watching people suffer. And they actually get to the point where they enjoy bloodletting, and they get off on the misery, and then they graduate and move into the deeper parts of the occult realm, where they end up drinking blood and doing human sacrifice and doing things to children I can't discuss. And these are the people that are in control of everything, folks. And so the government is run by these psychopaths, and the people that you see on TV are not running anything, folks. Those are the ones that have been compromised on camera and forced and blackmailed to toe the line. They've been financed and funded by the controllers that pull the marionette strings on these clowns. And they feed you all these lies and soap opera crap on the television, so you think like you have a say and you're part of this sitcom, right? That you're part of this episode of General Hospital or whatever they got going on Pennsylvania Avenue. And they take a break and they go to Madison Avenue, and then instead of going to the Pantages Theater, they go back to Pennsylvania Avenue, which is really the Pantages Theater. I mean, folks, what's the difference between the Pantages Theater and the Kabuki Theater? It doesn't matter. The government is all about control and consolidation of power, wealth, thought, and our collective consciousness, folks. And so, when I say, are you freaking kidding me? I'm not kidding, folks. I mean, come on! You really think those things are flying through space? Okay, let me ask you a question. How come airplanes can only get to maybe, I don't know, 30,000 feet, maybe 40,000 feet? Some of them maybe get, some really super duper special ones get up to maybe 50 or 60,000, right? Well, you got to have something to push against, folks. If you have thrust, you got to have something for that thrust to push against. Now, I know that you can have some 180 IQ kid imported from China that's got 3-inch thick Coke bottle glasses that spends his whole life staring at a screen doing physics equations, and he can put together something called how you can have propulsion in a vacuum. But I want to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, that defies logic. There's nothing to push against when you get so high, folks. That's why everything goes sideways when it goes up, because eventually it's got to start going back down, okay? You cannot have propulsion in a vacuum. Oh, they've got these supposed... look, I've researched all of these supposed space engines where they spend like $300-400 million on one of these things and it comes crashing back down to the ground. I mean, it's a joke, folks. The space programs are a fraud, but they are a sinister fraud because they are doing different things by going up there. They want you to think that these guys showing up on a green screen or being filmed in a gigantic water tank where you can occasionally see the bubble, are actually up there, you know, working on some broken billion-dollar Hubble telescope. Everything they put up there malfunctions. Have you noticed that? Even this thing the other day they launched out of Israel, oh, it's malfunctioning, but it did this miraculous maneuver, right? Everything malfunctions. These things always blow up. They always crash. You know, there's all these movies made about the Apollo, you know, the nonsense. And you know what? What a shame. What a tragedy that Richie Cunningham turned into, huh? What a degenerate, huh? Taking part in all these lies. Because here's the key, core, common purpose of the space program. Aside from the nefarious intent of putting stuff up there and stealing money and building underground facilities and black ops weaponry with all this money that NASA's stolen, and through these black op programs that, you know, that's got all these underground facilities that got, you know, computers. They got these buildings out in the desert that got football field sized stories underground with just millions of computers in them, right? You know what? Screw you. You want to listen to what I'm saying? Go ahead. You get off on listening to through my cell phone when I'm upstairs with my wife? Okay, well, you guys are sickos, right? Because I know that people are listening to what I'm saying when I'm talking on this. And I'm sure that my phone's tapped at home. I'm sure they've probably got microphones turned on in my computers. I don't care. What are you going to do? Make a magazine out of it and turn Japanese on me, right? Yeah, maybe you ought to play that song 100 times over and enjoy it, you bunch of freaks that are spying on me. It doesn't matter. See, folks, it doesn't matter. We can't be afraid of these clowns, but we have to expose what they're up to. What they're up to is no good. They're ripping us off, and they're figuring out ways to mess us up. And in the meantime, you're sitting there glued to the cartoons going, wow, this is incredible. You know what? A 12-year-old could make those graphics, folks. That's right. A 12-year-old could make those space pictures. And you know what? They're probably made by a 12-year-old because most people are in a state of arrested development where their critical thinking stops at age 12. Because that's about the time that the stuff that they're not supposed to be watching is the stuff they watch, right? And it changes their endorphin production, and it's driven by other things instead of what it shouldn't be driven by. You see, normal human beings' endorphins are driven by success and accomplishment and fulfillment with love and positive endeavors, but now they've turned it all into the opposite, right? Did you ever wonder why they legalized all the dope now? Because they got everything in place to where you could just sit on your couch and stay in prison without any handcuffs, right? They got the virtual reality headsets. They got DoorDash, Ding Dong, wireless openers, and, you know, they got liquor stores everywhere. They got all these medications, and you can get the chronic delivered, for crying out loud. Hey, look, I'm not going to knock the weed, folks. I don't need to smoke this stuff. But did you ever wonder why we had all of this this war against weed while everybody's a bunch of alcoholics with the bulbous nose and the veins sticking out of their face, and their bowling ball guts walking around for decades, and liquor on television, cigarettes on television, and then we had reefer madness and all the propaganda magazines about how marijuana made you into Charles Manson, right? No! It makes you the perfect prisoner, because you sit there and stare at the screen, and you don't get off your couch. You just find another bag of Funyuns and put another headset on and hop it up, right? That's what they want, folks. Listen, they got plans and they're not good. And are you freaking kidding me? You actually believe this stuff's floating around in space? Let me tell you what they're up to, folks. You see, the Earth is flat. It's not a spinning ball. Whether it's concave, whether it's disc-shaped, or whether it's flat, that has yet to be determined. I'm not fully convinced on either one of those, but I'm definitely convinced that it's not a spinning ball and it's not moving, and that we are in a closed system. And we cannot get out of this. And let me tell you why, folks. Let me tell you why they've got these fake space programs, and they've spent so much money on Star Wars, and they're resurrecting it for our children now. You know, I never saw Star Wars in the 70s. Never felt the need to. Thought it was really bizarre and creepy and stupid. You know, I'll be honest with you, when Star Wars was out and everybody was lining up to go to the movies, I was riding my bike to the Balboa Pier with a backpack, and I would bring home bonita and yellowtail fillets, and I would soak them in barbecue sauce in the afternoon and put them on my hibachi and barbecue this fish that I caught myself, cleaned myself, and rode home on my bicycle myself while everybody else was playing Atari and going to the Star Wars movies. I was in the sun. I was breathing air full of iodine and salt, and I was eating food and fish that God made and cooking it on charcoal and smelling the smell of life, folks, and being alive, while people were being indoctrinated with this absolute crap about how there's these spinning balls and these spaceships and all these aliens and all this crap. And George Norrie, go screw yourself. You know that? I'm so sick and tired of your stupid coast-to-coast alien abduction chupacabra garbage. You know what? You need to go pound sand, you fraud. And all the circus clowns you have on there making a mockery out of everything. And you have this supposed Christian on there talking about how the Bible and science go hand in hand. No, they don't. Science is at war with the Bible. NASA's at war with the Bible. The government is at war with the Bible. Just go to a school board meeting and look at the curriculum. There's a war on children. There's a war on God. NASA's at the heart of it, folks. They're at the heart of it. Because they don't want you to know that God put you inside a closed system and he made all these wonderful trees and birds and bees and flowers and peas for our wonderful enjoyment. And Satan has corrupted it all and destroyed it all. And instead of eating pomegranates and kumquats, you're eating a bunch of Uncrustables and Top Ramen. And it's wrong, folks. And the solution is injections and injunctions. No! I'm sick of it, and you should be too. Because they're taking all your money and spending trillions of dollars on these fake space programs, and they're spraying stuff up there, folks. They're putting stuff up there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's with these launches, but there's a lot of them lately. They're putting a lot of rockets up there, and they're not putting satellites up there, folks. They're putting something else up there. I can only speculate as to what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But I definitely know they're not going to the moon. I definitely know that you cannot have propulsion in a vacuum. And I definitely know that the reason they want you to believe that we're on a spinning ball is because they don't want you to know that you're in a closed system. You see, if you realize you're in a closed system, then you're going to believe that somebody, number one, closed the system and put the lid on it. And then number two, then you have to question, how did we get inside it? And who put us here, and why are we here, right? You see, folks, they don't want you to know that God created the heavens and the earth, and that God is real, and that God put 75,000 miles worth of circulatory system in your body. Did you know you have 75,000 miles of circulatory system in your body? You want to know something, folks? If you're an atheist, you're either a moron or mentally ill. Okay? One or the other, or perhaps both. Because you cannot get 75,000 miles of circulatory system inside a walking, living, breathing, thinking, talking human being unless it was fearfully and wonderfully made by somebody that is absolutely beyond the scope of our understanding, and their ability and ingenuity vastly transcends our teeny little puny brain's ability to even comprehend its existence. But what did he do? He didn't come down here in the form of a German Shepherd. He didn't come down here in the form of a Wi-Fi fire hydrant. He came down here in the form of a man, ladies and gentlemen. He came down here as one of us, to live like one of us, to talk to one of us, to talk to all of us, to show us the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. He came down from on high, from above the dome. He's the door. He's the way out of the dome. They don't want you to know about Jesus Christ. They want you having Hot Pockets and Prozac, and they want you hopped up on sugar and Wi-Fi and blue light and glyphosate and and fluoride and brominated flour, brominated vegetable oil, and the sun-kissed, and bisphenol A and endocrine disruptors, and a bunch of nightmare-inducing cartoons from childhood with all this satanic imagery in the video games, and all these club rubber black latex laden avatars in these Fortnite episodes to ruin the thought process. You know, folks, one of the most amazing things to me is when I grab a kumquat off the tree and I squeeze it and I watch that oil come out the pores of that thing and I eat that, and I look up at the incandescence of the sun and I feel the warmth on my skin and I taste that beauty, and I look at the bees pollinating the flowers of the nasturtium and I say, praise God! And then I go to a store or anywhere and I see a TV screen and it's this blue light with these weird looking chicks with these big jaws and their boobs on display with this satanic look on their face. Folks, you got a choice. You got a choice. Choose this day whom you will serve. And they don't want you knowing about God. They don't want you knowing about Jesus Christ. They don't want you knowing about the dome. And all these scumbag churches are involved in this too. Worthless churches. They won't talk about the truth of the Bible. These pastors can't even get past Genesis 1:6 and speak the truth. They can't even go through the first 7 verses of the Bible without lying to you. Have you ever heard a sermon on the firmament, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I'm sure you've heard a sermon on, the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork, right? You've heard that before, right? Have you ever heard a pastor sit there and tell you in the pulpit on Sunday about the dome? About how the earth is in the shape of a compass? That's right. And the word rakia in the Hebrew means a solid structure, and its inference is supporting waters above it. That's why the sky is blue, folks. Because the churches are criminal. The churches are crooks. And the churches are part of the deception. And the churches intentionally give you the same 3 verses for an entire month to put you to sleep. Because they are there to literally castrate the Christians. And I'm here to tell you that no such thing is taking place, ladies and gentlemen. Because I'm here to tell you the truth. These churches want your money. They're going to tell you that Jesus is coming back next week, so give us all your money. Let me ask you a question, folks. If the world's coming to an end and Jesus is coming back next week, then why do the churches need anything? If the churches believe that the world is coming to an end and that Jesus is coming back next week and these are the last days, then how come the churches aren't giving away everything to the poor, right? Oh no, like Greg Laurie and Jack Hibbs and these Calvary Chapel guys telling us, oh yeah, the time is close. You know, Chuck Smith every weekend. I watched a video on Chuck Smith, this big fear-mongering dispensationalist knucklehead that scared the living daylights of all these hippies thinking that the world was going to come to an end. You know what? A lot of these hippies never had kids because of that jackass. All right? And they took all their money. A lot of these guys had vasectomies because they thought the world wasn't going to come to an end. You know what Chuck Smith did? He interfered with the creation of eternal souls by scaring the living daylights out of all these people based on lies and a false interpretation of the Bible, a dispensationalist eschatology from the pit of hell. And you want to know something, folks? There's a bunch of kids that didn't get born because of these clowns, and they took all their money. That's right. And what do they tell everybody? Oh, it's getting close. We're in the last days, and you know things are getting bad. That's great. That means Jesus. No, we've got to fight and clean things up and stand for truth. And if these churches were legitimate, they wouldn't be asking for money, and they'd be going through the Bible and say, "Oh, we get to Genesis 1. All right." In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? A couple verses down, like maybe 5 verses later, not a big stretch, folks. And the firmament, right? He talks about the firmament that separates the waters above from the waters below, right? How come they don't talk about that? Well, because that conflicts with the textbooks. And that means the children are going to say, hey, wait a minute. So the children are taught that the Bible is wrong by the schools and by the churches and by these Christian schools, right? Because the Christian schools are a bunch of frickin' crooks too. Do the math on what these Christian schools are charging your kids for tuition. And look at the scumbag that signs the 990 form that's supposed to be a nonprofit, right? They're all a crook. They're all crooks, folks, ripping you off. Do the math on the Calvary Chapel School's tuition and find out what they pay the teachers, and ask those guys, you know, they're getting $5,000 a month for the cell tower on the property, and ask them where the rest of the money's going when the teacher's making $1,800 a month and there's 35 kids in there and they're paying $800 a month. And the place is paid for and they don't pay any taxes. Where's the money going, right? And then yet, if you got your kids in one of these Christian schools, they're fundraising, asking you to raise money for baseball caps and football pads, right? You want to know something, folks? This is beyond a freaking joke. Are you freaking kidding me? Everything's a lie. Hang on to your wallets, folks, and open your eyes and start unplugging from the Matrix and all of the lies, okay? You need to understand. You need to understand something, folks. The earth is not flat. The earth is not some spinning ball, folks. We're not moving. The Bible is clear. The Bible says we have a dome over on top of us. The rapture is a fake doctrine to keep people asleep. It is the sleeping gas. The pastors are crooks. There was this guy that ran Biola University, and I'm a Christian, folks, but I'll call this right now. Biola is dispensational. It teaches everybody that the world's coming to an end. I know Biola graduates, a couple of them together couldn't screw in a light bulb. And the guy that ran that place for decades, his name was Clyde Cook. And at EV Free in Fullerton, he went on record and extolled the virtues of J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, as an example of perseverance. Did you hear what I said? The guy that ran Biola University, Clyde Cook, stated in the pulpit at a big church in Fullerton with thousands of people in the pews that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series that has brought more children into witchcraft and spellcasting and incantation and necromancy and sorcery than any other person in human history, was an example up there with Moses on perseverance. That is the kind of crap that comes out of the Bullshit Institute of Los Angeles, folks. You people need to wake up. These churches are crooks. The earth is not a spinning ball. The space programs are a fake deception to get you to believe that evolution is true, because evolution is dependent upon spinning ball floating around through space, infinite amount of time, infinite number of possibilities. No, evolution can't work in a closed system, because guess what? God put us here, and evolution has no room for God, and these pedophile perverts that run the government have no place for God. They want him gone. That's why NASA666.com is one of my websites, folks. All right, I'm going to go in Jesus' name, folks. I've had enough. We've gone a little over. And they always cut off the end, folks, don't they? Don't they always cut off the end of these? I don't know why they do that, but we're going to go in Jesus' name, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And Ephesians 6, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against dark spiritual forces of wickedness in high places. Therefore, take the full armor of God, folks. And you got to have the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness. You got to have your ankles shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. You have to have the sword of truth. All right? What am I missing? All right? Listen. All right, that's it. I see you out there from Denmark, all over the world. People all over the world listening to this broadcast, folks. Thousands and thousands of people. You want to know something? I got an email from a guy. He's telling me that he was watching me in a parking lot somewhere in the Midwest, and he was really happy to hear what he was hearing. He actually rolled his window down in a Walmart parking lot and told the guy next to him, hey, tune into this YouTube channel. You want to know something? The guy was already watching it in the other car. So I want to tell you something, folks. When two guys in a parking lot that don't even know each other in the middle of the United States on a Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock are both watching this video, all right? I can tell you right now, there's way more people watching this than YouTube wants you to believe. And that's okay, because we know the people that control YouTube serve the devil. That's why it's okay to have pornography on here and satanic images on here, but you can't talk about certain countries or certain ethnicities, and they'll shut you down because they're afraid of the truth, folks. But guess what? We're going to continue doing what we're doing. All right, God bless in Jesus' name, and subscribe. Make sure that bell's clicked. P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. Send me a line, folks. Looking to hear from you. God bless.